I have to turn those on. I don't know, someone else is coming in. No. No.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 17th, 2025 zoning board meeting of appeals. Roll the board.
Member Frew,
Here.
member Marlowe. Here. Member Hart
Here.
and member Gerbino.
Here.
And Chairman Trick. Your last.
Review and approval of minutes dated March 20th, 2025. Second. Roll the board.
Member Frew,
Aye.
member Marlowe. Aye. Member Hart,
Abstain.
member Gerbino.
Aye.
And Chairman Hedrick.
Here. Tonight, the first thing on the agenda was discussion and stuff with Dollar General area variance. Victor, are you on?
Yes, I'm on here.
All right. Sorry for all of the confusion and stuff. It wasn't until just the other day that we found out that, we have to have a seeker before we can make a decision on this. So with that being said, I don't know how long it would take you to get us the information for the seeker. But what you could do is as soon as you could get it to us and get it to us to review and stuff, then we could make a decision. As fast as you can get it would be better. We could even call a special meeting to discuss it as soon as we get it. But by law, we can't make a decision on it tonight.
Understandable. Understandable.
And like I said, I apologize for it.
No, I mean, yeah, no, I understand. You guys learned it and passed information when you had it. We were just like I explained before, we were just hoping to figure out the variances first. That's why we started with the zoning board separately from the planning board. Just because some of the items are like, the building size, which is unchangeable. If the building does not get approved, then, we have to just, call it quits. So we were hoping to sort out the zoning related items before we engaged the planning board. And it seemed like, I guess we missed a step in there that they should have still been involved for the secret process. I know you guys asked for an extension. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of extending. So we can't, our contract with the seller has its times in certain ways, so we can't do an extension, but I'm still gonna talk to our office, like you said, maybe if before the next, whatever it is, the 62 days is over, it would have been resolved to set up a special meetings. I'll let you know. We'll communicate definitely with Marjorie and the rest of the group. But we can do an extension.
Victor, this is Lauren Barron, one of the attorneys to the town. Just following up on what Chairperson Hedrick mentioned. So if you provide the full environmental assessment form to us, the zoning board can do their own seeker review prior to making any determination regarding the variances, and the 62 days is up. My calculation is May 21st, and I believe that your May meeting is May 15th because there's 4 Thursdays in May.
Okay, so yep.
Oh, so are you saying the zoning board wants to take leadership for the seeker?
So we can do an uncoordinated review if it's an unlisted action. So the zoning board can make their own seeker determination and the planning board would make their own seeker determination.
Okay, all right. So as long as I get the information to you as soon as possible, they could potentially be reviewed prior to the end of the period on the 15th.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. I think that's our only option.
Thank you, Victor, and I'm sorry for it.
No, it's understandable. No, nobody's blaming anybody. It's we're all learning the same process, but we were just the timing is unfortunately with our contract has its language, and limits us here and there. But anyways, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you. And I'll communicate with our office, and Marjorie will send you, I guess, communicate through you whatever is needed.
Okay, sounds good, Victor.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and have a good Easter.
You too.
So now you can feel free to discuss the application if you want to, at this meeting, or choose to table it for now, if you want, we'll do
Right.
discussion. for
The only discussion that we had was, how do we, from the last meeting we had, how do we determine the size of the sign on the front of the building?
Didn't he send something that he looked at? I thought I saw it in the electronic. I didn't
Yes.
see it in paper, but I saw electronic.
Yes.
Right, yeah, we the last meeting, we spoke about how the sign area might be looked at, whether it's as a square, total length from last letter to the first letter multiplied by the height, versus if it's the area of each singular letter, all of them added up. And that's what we provided. We got the calculation from the designer on
Right.
what the sign would be, the area would be of the letters combined, and then the box that says DG.
Correct. What did you come up with square footage on that?
Hold on, let me pull it.
Do you remember?
I'm gonna pull it up here real quick. Let's see, I sent it to Marjorie on.
Medallion was 31.67.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah, they had it broken down. So the medallion by itself, which is the square yellow box, is 31.67. Each of the letters are listed in there: 14.33, 7.7, 6.2, 10.4, 4.0, 1.8. Their total comes to 76.27.
Okay.
Right, you did
I-
some
I
rough
came up-
paperwork. You
yeah,
did
I-
pretty good. I think we ended up at 73,
Yeah.
so 72.
Yeah, yeah, it's that little tiny square box on the sketch that we sent to Marjorie. Underneath where it says market, underneath the T, there's a little box. Where
Right,
they were.
that's where we missed it,
Yeah,
this little one.
yeah, that little box.
This one. Yeah, because it doesn't have a backing. The front of the building is the backer. It's not like a billboard or a standalone sign.
Right.
Okay, so we have to, is that the way we're gonna look at it? Is you be measuring not what it's attached to, but are we going to use the measurement of the letters and sign and stuff?
So you're saying there's not gonna be a backer to the letters?
Right, these are
No.
attached to the building.
Okay,
Okay,
directly.
it's not like they
Yeah.
brought it in a
My-
25 by
Sure,
8 thing and screwed it to the building with everything on. These letters are actually attached to the building from what I've seen here.
Right, they're somehow.
is there a way to gauge the largest letters and then everything else would be inclusive in that?
Yeah, it's kind of broke up.
These aren't attached, the
No,
DG is not
they're
attached
all
to the,
individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, the only thing I didn't look for was there's a little block underneath it here. Okay, But yeah, it's the block, but then it's the letters. It's not, yeah, it's not like the whole framework or the American brought it and stuck it on there.
But they're saying from say left to right, that the distance will be finite. It'll be in a specific number. That's whatever's here on paper is what it'll be on the building.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, do you have any input on this, John? Okay,
I just wanted clarified again. For the
Right.
Record that I measure the total width by height.
right.
It's not typical anywhere to measure individual letter spaces and try to come up. We take 6 feet by 12 feet.
Okay.
And if the board wants to do something different, that's certainly their prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, we provided it if in case that was, because it came up in the last meeting. But also the total dimensions are still listed on there, the 22, 10 inches and a half for the width and 5 feet and 4 inches height.
For instance, the K is shown is at 7 feet, 5'8".
That's larger, or do you take this much for something, because that's the height of this and this? You take just that for something by the length?
So if you take it in total, it's 120 square feet, 120.575 square feet,
Okay.
I think is what the original,
Sounds
Okay.
about right.
and we are only allowed to do 43, I got my glasses, oh my god, this is so small, 43.52 square feet, I think is what,
No,
no,
you're
what's
allowed, you're allowed
75.
75.
Oh, we're allowed 75,
Right.
so,
That is, if you take the larger figures, length and width. Okay, then that's where we come up with the 120. But if you break it down and only measure the block of letters and then the DG block, then it comes a lot less. So it depends on,
it's not backlit, there's no back to the letters.
right,
So,
that's where the
except for
question is.
the DG, which we're counting that whole thing,
Correct.
so. And I guess the easiest way is to do length and width of the whole thing, but the materials are not that,
Correct.
I just.
Yeah, it's not like they're gonna deliver it, whatever the length is and the width is, and
Mhm.
stick it up there. It's actually the front of the building is the backstop.
Right,
So we have to. So it'd be 4411. Then you've got the 5'4". You take the total 5'4", the maximum width and length, or do you take it as two separate? But here they're separated. You take one, then the other.
I don't know, I, my own personal,
Looking at it as two sides.
I look at it.
It'd be two, right?
Looking at it,
Okay. So we're gonna take the 5'4" by 5'11" for the DG. And then the market will be 4 feet 11 and 11/32. Boy, they get this right down, don't they, Victor? By 16.
What was the question?
I said, boy, they get this right down when you're talking 11/32.
Yeah, I know. I know, yeah, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure there's even one that's more detailed that shows the angles on the leaf and what is the, I don't know, the arc on the E and.
I think we're just gonna call it 5.
Okay,
It would be what, 5 by 16?
Which would be 80.
What'd you come up with?
I mean, it's less than 80. This would be like the equivalent of 4.5 by 16. So it'd be 4 times 16 is 64. Half this would be about 70 for real. This portion. And then this portion is about 27.5.
Okay, so if it's 27.5 and 70, let's call it 30, and 70 would be 100 square feet. So is everybody on agreement that it'd be the sign will be 100 square feet and 75 is allowed? So there'd be a variance of 25 square feet.
Mhm.
This is actually 30. This would be about 30 square feet.
Right.
Mhm.
So 30 and 70 be 100.
Okay.
So we're safe at 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the variance for the sign on the front of the building will be 100 square feet, 75 allowed. Variance would be for 25 square feet. Everybody in agreement? Okay. Okay. With that being said, we'll table a decision and hope to hear from you soon, Victor.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You too. Have a good Easter.
You too.
So the next on the agenda is public hearing 2025-2Z Rush Solar Farm 1 for an area variance. Could you read the legal notice, please?
Notice is hereby given that pursuant to the provisions of the town of Rush in chapters 274A and 274B of the town law, a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of Rush at the Rush Town Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, on April 17th, 2025 at 7 p.m. to hear all persons interested in the following applications. Application number 2025-2Z by Rush Solar Farm 1 LLC for an area variance to plant smaller sized trees along areas of the perimeter of the solar farm. Parcel is located at 540 Honeyway Falls number 6 Road, Honeyway Falls, New York, 14472, with a tax parcel ID number of 226.01-1-5.1 and is zoned R30 residential.
Is somebody here representing?
If you want to just turn the, it's right up here, right up on top. Yep, just turn it on. Yep, there you go.
Big Metro with Next Door Energy,
Is that on?
It is.
Then? Okay.
Yeah.
Nick with ASP or General. Folks from Josh Landscaping.
Can you speak a little louder? I am a hearing agent, but you know, it's still like.
Yeah, so I'm Dave Montrell with Next Door Energy, owner's representative for Rush Solar Farm. This is Nick for ASP, or project manager for general contractor. In the back, we have Josh Landscape, who performed the tree planting originally.
You're asking for a variance for the 4th
It'd be a
the
14
14-foot high trees to eliminate that. You're also asking to eliminate them in a certain section.
Eliminate or change to a species of tree that can actually survive down there. It's a very low land, saturated, and the pines don't like it down there.
You know, a lot of rock up there.
Definitely a lot of that.
I read the report and I thought it was a pretty extensive. This was the consulting report.
Yes.
And felt it was pretty extensive and directly done in a way that was understandable. Do you want to talk a little bit about that report from your standpoint?
I think from ASP land, but
Yes. My company was the ones that had hired that consultant to come out and do that report. So just to give you guys a little background information, like Dave said, advanced solar product, and those are the people from Josh Landscape who installed the original 14-foot landscape buffer. So this site is 5 megawatt solar array. And as previously mentioned, there's a 14-foot buffer that goes around the entire perimeter. And so this original landscape buffer included approximately 575 evergreen trees. And they consisted of eastern red cedars and green giants. And we did have the option to substitute for balsam fir trees and eastern white pines in areas where it was overly saturated. So where we currently stand now is that we planted the 14-foot trees as called for in the original plan. And now at this point in time, approximately 2/3 of those trees planted in the fall of 2023 have now died, with the majority of those trees either dead or declining in health within the first few months of planting. So with this being said, this is where this report comes in. We reached a point in time where we needed to seek professional advice from a licensed arbor consultant to do this investigation into why the trees have died, why so many of our trees have died, and what we can do to prevent that from happening again. Because we need to replace these trees and we want to do it right this time. So we need a professional to tell us what we have to do to make sure we can get it right. So that's what this report that was put together was sought to do. And so this arborist, his name was Josh Galele. And he did, one of his main points was that he did reinforce that larger, more mature trees, like the 14-foot trees that we originally planted, they have in general, a much higher mortality rate than medium-sized younger trees. They've been in the ground for so long and they've been so established, those root bases can grow up to 10 feet away from the tree. And then when you transplant them and remove them, you're cutting up the root base down very substantially, and that often doesn't move well from the tree. So he also had mentioned that younger trees, not only do they have a lower mortality rate after being transplanted, but they can also establish in a new environment much faster, and they're actually able to establish themselves quicker and outgrow, say, if an 8-foot tree was planted next to a 14-foot tree, the younger tree can establish itself better and it will outgrow the 14-foot tree over time. So yeah, we are here before you today to request approval to plant the smaller 8-foot trees and replace the trees that have died with these 8-foot trees. And then in addition, through our last 2 years at this site, we've noticed that in the back northwest part of the site, that's where we go. The site slopes down to the northwest. So that's where we've experienced lots of issues with the soil being too saturated. It's very clay-like soil back in that area. So the water, when it rains, the water stays there. It doesn't soak down into the ground, and that's pretty problematic for the trees. They experience an issue called root rot, where the water just sits there, the roots will rot like a piece of wood for your decking, right? And so that's kind of the issue that we see in the back northwest part of the site. And so our proposal is to either, we would like to just have no trees planted back there if possible. You know, it's really hard to get a tree to establish in that type of conditions. And there is it's a very wooded part of the site. It's, you know, there's not, it's not along the highway and there's no, houses in view that would be able to see if there's an existing tree line there. That would be used to buffer any eyesore from, or any of those homeowners having to look at the solar field. But of course, if that's not possible, then we wanted to at least propose some alternative tree species that are listed on that plan that would have a better chance of surviving at that part of the site. That's my little spiel there. And so, yeah, this report, it was very detailed. It listed the main concern that we had at this site, and that's the soil, right? This clay soil is the main problem at that site. And he also did go into some great detail about some other tips and stuff that we should look into when we replant the new trees to make sure that they survive and they look nice and beautiful for you guys.
Was there any talk, like with the 8 or the 14-foot prep to each site hole versus say the 8-foot, just you bringing in, whether it's 14-foot or 8-foot as far as the root ball, or maybe creating more of welcoming hole, if you will, with what's in the hole? I don't know if that would be a Josh answer or not, but the prep for the roots of the new trees you're putting in, regardless of the height, was that part of a solution so that the new tree can kind of mate with the soil that's there now that you've helped dig up, so to speak, and create a better seeding spot, I guess?
That is one thing that was kind of noted in his report. He said with the type of soil that's there, one thing that we can do to kind of improve the soil at that site is to, we call it a scoop and dump technique, right? Where you can kind of loosen up the compacted soil. And I believe it's proposed, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you want to a hole that's twice the size of the root ball, is that correct?
Yeah, correct, yeah. So, yeah, to answer that question, we will be amending soil, around the holes. Just that as possible, which we do anyway, we don't plan regardless, but yeah, we would be taking stuff into consideration. Just assess soil the best as possible. You still have the subsoil, which is really the issue, because we're not going to come on that soil, it's still going to hit that compaction play down below the flow of water. So really the best shot is finding plants that will adapt to the condition of site range. Or site, find a plant that will adapt to the drainage, which is what. But to answer your question, we would 100% be doing what we can. Yeah.
Another way,
You want to step up to the podium, please? Somebody.
Some of the,
Now, you're
research.
with,
there we go. I'm with Josh Landscape,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
right.
I'm one of the client relations managers.
Yep.
I actually sold the project. I
Yep.
consulted and we put them in the ground. So another thing we talked about is mending soil, but actually getting the trees up on a berm.
Yes.
You know, a 25 foot wide berm of fresh mended soil and planting the trees in out of the water. So that would definitely help. It would increase the survival rate for those trees being smaller and completely out of the water. There's steps to take in something like this. It's not something we build and throw the trees in. So, but it would take a lot to build the berm, but that's the best bet.
But-
Especially,
That was one of the things that he talks about in the report.
Correct.
Is to build a berm that would help keep them out of the clay.
yeah, keep the feet out of the water and the clay.
Yeah.
Correct.
but by solving one problem, would we be creating another one?
We talked about putting, Josh and I, when we walked that, we talked about some type of drainage system in the backside of that. Leave that water to get it
Right,
out.
because like I said, you
Because it'll
solve,
trap it.
right.
Trap.
solve one problem, you may be creating another one. Okay,
So there would be drainage involved.
yeah.
right. What do you want? I know you and I talked before and whatnot. what would you, from what I understand, these 14-foot high trees aren't native trees. Were they native to this state or were they brought in?
They're native.
Were they native?
They're native.
They were brought in. That's it.
They're bought in from Pennsylvania, but they are native.
But they're native. They're native. They're
They're
Right,
native
yeah,
to this
but-
area,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, okay. But-
He's our grower and supplier of our trees.
Right, okay. I guess my next question is, what would you recommend? I
Read the report.
mean, I can plant willow, you know,
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
grow any place.
Yeah, I agree.
Then you get Cornell to come harvest it for wood pellets, but anyway.
So, I mean, I read the report as well. That man knows far more than I ever will. That was an excellent report and I don't recall the exact species he recommended in there, but I remember reading and thinking that all makes sense. Some mixed with deciduous as well in there. Deciduous loses leaves, not evergreen. I guess I apologize. I didn't. I
No,
was told I was
that's
supporting. I
fine.
wasn't planning on speaking. I was told it wouldn't be bad. But I fully stand behind that report.
Right.
I think it's excellent. So what he recommends, I would stand by.
Cause I know one time I did some work on a Christmas tree farm and that's what they did.
Yeah.
Double gangs. Put a berm.
Correct.
It was only like 18 inches high by 2 feet wide, I think. But we burned it up and they
My
planted
wife
Christmas
was
trees on it because of the soils and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens often, really.
And it was easier for me to pop the stumps out, but anyway.
Yes, yes. But yeah, it is a good solution.
Yep.
The berm, many times you're even just kind of putting half the ball up. In this situation, I don't know if that would work. It is a very wet site.
Yeah, cause like I said, the only thing with the Christmas trees, we did it so long and it was on a hill. It's all we did was make gutters. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I think the solution of, probably perk pipe in the
Yep.
ground would be a great solution.
More
to-
tile.
To move the water somewhere, right, or tile,
Yep.
to move the water somewhere else. I think that's a great solution.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody have any more questions?
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Forgive me, they may be dumb questions. I'm just gonna say that my husband's the one who does the landscaping.
Nothing's dumb here.
But the first one is, okay, so you still have 1/3 that are alive. You're not gonna touch those. You're gonna leave them, you're not replacing them. Right, okay. And so that's my first question. The second question is the area that you want to, not put trees any longer because it's the wetness and I get all that, the drainage issue. I know there's wood and stuff and you say that can't see it from the road, you can't see it from a house, there's no neighbors or stuff. And forgive me, this is like my 4th meeting, I'm a new board member, zoning board member, so can that ever be developed?
No,
Like, is there ever gonna be?
no, there's a gas line which they don't show.
Gas line goes down the middle of the site.
Oh, that goes down the middle of the site, yeah, but then you've got this creek here. And stuff.
You know, I just don't,
Yeah,
I
but
just
the
don't
gas
want
line goes
it
down the
come
middle.
back and say.
I wasn't quite
can
sure
sell
where it
this
was in there, but
from
yeah.
Some neighbor
So when you look
later.
at the northwest corner of the site,
Ah.
that's at the full downslope. It's not visible even from 390. And then it's up against all the tree buffers splitting each field as well as going up on the hill. So there's no homes or anything behind. it in
Okay.
that area. It's just a heavily wooded area.
You got this creek here, this ditch here. And stuff. But there is a house here, there's Ronnie Pearl here.
This is a good picture.
Yeah, it doesn't really show this, but. Yeah, this is the expressway,
Right,
this is
yeah.
where it is,
Yeah.
and here's the woods and there's the creek going through it.
Mhm.
Ronnie Pearl's place is there,
Okay,
where the creek is on either side there, there's a house there, they got a bunch of ponies there or whatever.
okay.
you know.
I just
All the-
trying to think forward
Oh, those are
thinking.
good questions, Laura. It really.
Yeah, no, that was,
It fits right in with
Yeah.
the concern of
Okay, those are my.
what
two
we're,
questions.
what we're potentially eliminating.
yeah, I really don't know what the property, I think the property line comes down through here. Mulligan owns this, But I think it comes down through, so there's quite a distance between it. Well, minimum 200 feet
Okay.
anyways. You know, there's 40-foot town-wide drainage there. I didn't know that. 200-foot setback to adjacent properties. Yeah.
Okay, so those are not room. That's fine.
Any comment from the audience? Is there anybody on Zoom?
There are 3 people. They
Shouldn't be.
are muted, but
Okay.
I don't think no one's raising their hand, so.
With this, I'm gonna leave the public hearing open. And I'll table it till our next meeting next month for us to gather some more information. And if you'd leave your card with us so we could get a hold of you, if you don't mind. Okay. And so with that, we'll table it till next month, and I'm leaving the public hearing open. We'll gather our information. Yes, sir.
Is there information that we can provide you to help you guys over the next month? You said.
Probably.
We can
Well,
help.
yeah, well, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna walk this. I farmed it before and I know it's wet in the back, but we'll walk it. I've read the report. I'll read it again. And probably is what's gonna happen is, and I don't know if you're there, we can contact you. We won't go inside the fence, but as board members, we will visit the site. Okay.
I can meet you guys there on site.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, only 2 of us can go at a time. Can't have more than 3, but we can always offset it a half hour or so. You know, so we can set something up. Cause if 3 of us go, it constitutes a meeting. Then we have to have it all advertised and everything, so. But that way we can go walk the site, see exactly what's there. And address it in that way.
If there's any questions with the trees or anything like that.
Okay.
Reach out to us as far as.
Yep.
As.
Yeah, I know how to get a hold of him. I appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Good. Okay, good enough. And there is no application this month for the May meeting, but we still have a meeting. Because we have 2 of them on the agenda. And with that, if nobody has any questions or anything, I make a motion, close the public, or close, not the public, the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, get me into trouble here.
I'll second that.
All right. Member Frew,
Aye.
Member Marla, Member Hart,
Aye.
Member Trevino.
Aye.
And Chairman Hedrick.
Aye.